Alright guys, welcome back to the Hardman Show. Today I want to talk about junkers. Um, Specifically, a reporter asked a question about junkers being available in the western parishes to clean up the carcasses of the dead animals like cows. Because western parishes have there's a lot of farming happening in these parishes like St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and those places. And due to Hurricane Melissa, a lot of livestock has been lost. You have goats, chicken, cows, dogs, cats, birds, all sort of animals are probably dead, and the bodies are left out there to rot, and that is seeping into the groundwater. Water is there's still a lot of water in the area and all of that, and it's just a recipe for disaster. Spreading outbreaks, cholera, other diseases and stuff like that. And so the question was posed, and I'm gonna play the question. Some of you might have seen this already on social media. I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna read some of the few comments. Okay.
Morning. I had some questions, but I don't necessarily know if anybody from the environmental sector is here. It has to do with just the decaying of carcasses and speeding that up. I went on Friday, didn't see any junkers in the air, and wondered, on a serious note, if anything could be done about getting some junkers in the area to take up some of the carcasses. Morning.
Okay, so that's basically a question, right? And a lot of people are laughing, and a lot of people find it funny. Some people are laughing because they think it's a stupid question, like what the hell is Junker? What are you gonna do with Junker and what? That doesn't make any sense. Some people are probably laughing because Junker to many Jamaicans, we know it, but we use it as a term of endearment and disrespect, dirty Junker, dirty, stuff like that, and so probably them hearing the term Junker in a serious settings like that is funny. Some people are laughing because they don't know better. They have no idea that junkers are an important part of the ecosystem, and they play a very vital and important role. They remove dead animals, they eat them and remove them from the environment, you know, so that we are not exposed to them, exposed to the scent, exposed to the rotten and all whatever bacteria and all that it can spread. So they play that important part. But the real reason showing this, apart from the fact that people are making fun of it, is that it's also important that sometimes when you hear something, it might sound funny and you might not understand it, and it's important that you go and do your own research because sometimes it might be very important knowledge that you are not even thinking about. Because it's very important. It's true. We might have to introduce. Well, it depends on if which approach you wish to take, right? So some people are laughing. Some people are saying that where will we get drunker from? It is yeah, yeah, you have like a drunker store, drunker catchers and all of that. And it's funny because some people can't think beyond their obvious biases. Some people are like, oh, what kind of, you have the JLP warriors, they will probably think so. Oh, now, what kind of nonsense you're talking about? And probably I think so they might try pressure the prime minister with nonsense. But it's very important because, again, Western Jamaica is completely destroyed, right? You have dead animals, you have even dead humans. I'm not sure if we've recovered all the dead humans in that area, right? I'm not sure. I think the current death toll is at 30, 32, 33, 35. I'm not sure. I think that's what I heard today on the news when I was driving on the radio. I could be wrong, right? But I think that's what the current death toll is at. Having all of these dead animals in the area exposed into the water, having people still walking around, people still don't have proper shelter, they don't have running water, right? And then They might even see a spring and say, okay, this spring, because spring water might look clean, white, and beautiful, like it's not dirty. You assume because it's clear, it's clean, but there could be dead animal at the top. It won't show. There could be, all sort of feces, animal blood, anything could be in that water, right? Yeah, that's why it's normally advisable to, if you get water from a source like river or a spring, boil it, to kill whatever bacteria might be in that water, right? And so there's a potential disease or outbreak that is waiting to happen if the carcasses of these animals is not removed quickly. Right now, the question is the government able to go in and remove these carcasses quick enough to prevent a disaster? Would it be easier to introduce the junker to the area and have them take care of it? Of course, no solution is 100% perfect. Everything comes has its pros and its cons. Like, I'm sure the junker solution is not 100% perfect. They themselves might introduce pathogens as well, but it probably be a lot safer than it being introduced by the dead animals being laying there. You know, um, I don't think the government is in a position right now to actually go in and 100% focus on removing dead animals, because the government, unfortunately, has a lot to do, right? Schools are destroyed. I'm sure it's a priority of the government now to get the schools up and running so that kids can go back to school. Businesses are destroyed. I'm sure it's up priority to get business up and running so that the economy in the Western Jamaica can restart, so that these people can start going back to work and earning a living. There's so many things, but I think number one priority now is getting to these communities where that are still maroon, that people still don't have access to food and clean water. I think there's on the news I said, and even on our data that I read, that there's still a lot of communities that have still been cut off, that no one have access as yet, right? And the longer it takes is the more death toll. So on the surface, it might look like a silly question about why introducing drunk crows in the area to feed on the carcasses, but it might be a brilliant idea. At least it might limit, the exposure of these animals to our water source and all of that. Because again, the government have so many thing priorities, right? And we're talking about a lot of animals. I saw a video on TikTok where there's this huge chicken coop with, it's I'm guessing at least 1,000 chicken or more dead. Some, right? So all of these has to be disposed of, and they have to be disposed of correctly, so it doesn't cause, you know uh outbreak of anything, pathogen or anything like that. All right, so what do you guys think in the comments? All right, do you do you think this is a stupid plan, or do you think it's genius? Right? And as I said, everything is about pros and cons. And I think, uh you see, in life, when you have problems, you have to define the problems as clearly as possible and ensure that you are solving for these problems as accurately as possible, right? And you also have to, as you say, reality, life is messy, it's full of variables, and you will never get, you solve one problem, and that by solving that problem, you introduce other problems into your life. That's just the nature of life. That's just how it is. All right, so we have to acknowledge that and realize that nothing is gonna ever be 100% perfect, but we have to weigh our options and see which is best, at least in this time. And then once you get over one, like for instance, probably the government can't get to the carcasses right now, so getting the junker, catching the junkers, it's not a hard thing. People are saying, what the government supposed to do, catch junker? Yes, catch the junkers. I'm guessing that a lot of the population of drunkards probably died out in that era. I'm sure there's going to be migration from neighboring parishes, but we're not sure how long that's going to take. Again, ecosystems are like alive. They're simulating living things, living organisms. It's almost alive, right? So you see, if you look at some of the videos from Western Jamaica, like St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Moby, St. James, Hanover, you realize that the hills are like bald, just like the trees are without leaves. Trees are dying and all of that. And birds lives in tree. When they're not flying, they're pitching and coming down to feed the tree. Some birds like Jankro might have access to cave system that they might be in. Some, I'm not sure if all of them. Right? So a lot of them might have died out. So introducing some to the area might actually be good. Who knows? You know. And when the government is able to fully focus on getting rid of the carcasses, you know, then it do it. And also, one thing I want people to understand is that you see right now the volunteerism is high because the tragedy has just happened. It's gonna wane down eventually. People have to go back to their life. Some people that are volunteering will eventually have to go back to focusing on their family, their lives. And so it's important now while we have all of this volunteerism and everyone willing to help, that we prioritize some of these issues and try to get them solved now, so that when there's no longer a huge amount of people volunteering and it's just now up to the government, and that they can focus on more important stuff like building roads, repairing schools, getting business up and running, working on the repairing homes for people, um, building new bridges. There's so many stuff that we're gonna have to do. So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in our next video. All right, don't forget to subscribe and like. Yeah, this was a little rambling. I wasn't even planning on doing a video, but I just saw this and thought it was important, so I decided to let us talk about it. Alright, so see you guys in the next video. Drop a like, leave a comment. Let us see what you guys think, okay?